Hi, welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, the other day I read an article about parents who were bitterly complaining about how difficult parenting was and how they hated parenting. And basically the suggestion in this article was that we should actually take this thing seriously, and effectively we should almost celebrate and say that it's actually a good thing to think that some people actually think that parenting is bad and terrible and they're bitter about it, and that we should actually allow that to be considered like a valid and normal viewpoint that we effectively enshrine and almost celebrate and normalise. Oh, I completely disagree. Yep, parenting is difficult. I know that for a fact. I've got children of my own. And parenting, there are some days when it really sucks and it's really hard to be a parent. But guess what? That suffering that you're going through as a parent is really, really important and is building some amazingly good things into your life that you won't get any other way. It's hugely important for you as a human person to go through that kind of difficult act of self-giving love and to commit yourself to it. You are being made a better person through that. Even though it might not feel that way at the moment, you are. You are developing an ability to give of yourself, to become more compassionate, to become more caring, and less narcissistic by and through this difficult trial that at times parenting can be. Let's be honest, it can be difficult at times, really hard. And it requires a lot of us. But you know what? It's really, really important. And not only that, we need to get off this narcissistic, self-obsessed train that we all get stuck on in modern society, where it's all about my feelings and how I feel, and I've got to have the good feels, or something's wrong, or I've got to find something that's going to give me good feels. No, that's not how the world operates. And that's not how societies and communities are made strong, by having a whole lot of individuals who are looking for good feels and nothing more. You actually need to be willing to give of yourself. And I've only really truly discovered this since parenting, that you actually need to be willing to make that sacrifice. And it's only through that things happen that are good in our lives and in the lives of the world around us. And you know the thing here, this narcissism completely cuts us off at the knees for a couple of reasons. If we promote and encourage this sort of narcissistic, me-focused thinking about parenting, it's all about how I feel, and it should feel good, and because it doesn't feel good, I should be able to celebrate the fact that it doesn't feel good. I'm not talking about people being honest. You need honesty, and you don't want to romanticize parenting and leave people struggling away on their own because they think they're a failure. You need to actually have an honest appraisal of parenting which says, yeah, it's tough some days, it's really hard, and you know what, it's messy, and none of us are going to be perfect at it, and that's okay. But I'm instead here talking about this narcissistic sort of idea that we should be enshrining and celebrating the bitterness. We shouldn't be. And I'll tell you why it's not good for us. A, we're denying ourselves the chance to grow. B, every single one of us was parented by someone else. Unless we had a dysfunctional upbringing, someone else committed themselves to giving of themselves to us and to putting themselves second. And so in a sense, I think we owe a debt, a life debt, as they would call it in Star Wars. We owe a debt of ourselves to our society by being willing to make that same sacrifice ourselves, if we're called to that vocation of marriage and parenthood. And the other thing as well is all of us one day will be old and frail, and we will want, I'm assuming we will expect people to give of themselves to us and not be bitter and complaining, oh, I hate my parents, and I hate elderly people, and I hate people who have these illnesses and sufferings and afflictions that mean that I have to care for them. It's so bitter, and we should celebrate my bitterness. No, we shouldn't. We should become more human by actually being willing to give of ourselves and being willing to actually realize that life is about difficulty and suffering, and that difficulty and suffering is actually growing us in really important ways, and it brings us together as community in profound ways. We shouldn't leave other people to suffer on their own. If parents are struggling, we should be helping those parents. And the other thing that really struck me about this article was, why was there no part of this conversation about the role of fathers? I know it's become very unpopular to suggest the true and very important fact that children need both a mother and a father, and you can't substitute out other people for mothers or fathers. You need both. And I know we've got this sort of gender war that wages all the time between male and female, where we've got to try and turn men into this vile, evil, oppressive, dominating thing that must be overcome by females. But that's not helping us. And what is really needed here is the challenge to men. Okay, if you're the mother of your children feels that she is isolated and struggling to the point of bitterness, then you're failing in your duty of care. You're supposed to protect and nurture, and this is how you're supposed to step up to the plate by being a father, by being present, by being involved. But none of that conversation is in this particular article, in this particular opinion piece. Instead, what we get is the suggestion that we should celebrate and enshrine the bitterness and the struggle, instead of actually trying to reorientate it in the truth and help ourselves to become less narcissistic and more self-giving. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.